Alrighty. Okay. So thank you again, everyone, for joining us for our Spring 2021 Ohio Clean Marinas Program virtual workshop, as we are still trying to work within COVID times and be mindful of certain restrictions that folks may have. This is going to be recorded from this point forward, and we will stop for some Q&A at the end, and we'll allow for that. What we'll have set up for the workshop today, we're going to have an overview of, I can click forward here, there we go, what the Ohio Clean Marinas program is, benefits and incentives, in other words, why you should consider becoming a clean marina, or if you are already certified, why you may want to reach a higher tier. A little bit about our Clean Boater program, which is a sister initiative that we offer. Then we'll go into how to become certified, our checklist overview, and then finally we'll cover some different projects and initiatives that we're working on that may be of interest to you. And I mentioned we'll have time for questions at the end. So the first piece is what is a Clean Marina program? I want to mention there is a link here that will be available. We'll share slides with everybody, and it'll also be posted on the website. So you're welcome to check out that video. It's not only helpful if you want to reinforce what I'm going to talk about today, but it's also a good kind of social media content to share if you have any boaters that are saying, you know, what is this Clean Marina program? What's it all about? So it provides a good overview of that. The base of our program, the core, I guess the way it's set up is it's a strictly voluntary incentive-based program. So while it is our team's job to understand any environmental regulations that apply to the recreational boating industry, it is not our job to enforce those regulations. So we strictly provide education on those regulations. We also provide education on what we consider to be above and beyond practices that oftentimes are certain things that may not be required by law, but that can certainly help you become a clean marina, and that we feel can help you become more resilient, sustainable, and just overall kind of eco-friendly for your boaters in terms of public perception. So that's the way we work, is we're a voluntary program. We offer guidance and technical assistance on what we call best management practices. So for the sake of time, from this point forward, I will probably call them BMPs. If you hear me mention that, that's exactly what I'm talking about. These are essentially science-based practices or procedures or different actions that you would do at your marina that are considered to be exactly what they are, best management practices. So the best case scenario for something to address a certain topic, such as spill prevention, marine debris, waste management, stormwater, etc. And then finally, the last core piece of the program is that participants are recognized for their environmental stewardship. So we not only, provide the education and the information on these environmental BMPs, but then once you become a certified clean marina, we recognize you and promote you for the good work that you're doing, going above and beyond what is often required by law. So why? Why should a marina consider joining the Clean Marinas program? And why should boaters support those clean marinas in Ohio and across the country? What I always love to say is, and I feel that marinas need to do a better job of bragging about this, marinas act as essentially a last chance for any runoff to be treated or managed before it enters our waterways. So oftentimes marinas are not only handling the water that is running off their property, whether it be stormwater, wastewater, or even other pollution such as marine debris, but oftentimes they are capturing or the endpoint of stormwater runoff from the surrounding community. So marinas are going above and beyond. If they are putting these practices in place, they're not only helping their business and their their dockers, their stakeholders, but they are helping the greater community because they're oftentimes addressing water that comes from elsewhere off-site. So it's something that marinas should be proud of by saying that they are not only doing their part, but they're doing more than their part. This is a great opportunity to become engaged in the protection of the very resource you need to thrive. We all know that if there's a harmful algal bloom in the water, or if there's a large debris, stagnant area where you get lots of debris buildup in your marina, boaters don't tend to like to dock there or frequent there. So if you are doing your part to help keep our waterways clean, chances are it will not only help you, but it'll help the overall recreational boating industry. So basically what we say is clean marinas, we need clean water. The balance of economy and environment encourages a sustainable long-term marina industry. So this last piece is about the big picture. It's about thinking long-term. It's about thinking about supporting and sustaining the recreational boating industry, not only for your boaters now, but for future boaters of future generations. And so while there's certainly benefits that we'll mention here shortly that are more tangible and financial, this one I call the kind of warm and fuzzy benefit, where some marinas truly do join, and certainly a lot of boaters support marinas that are a clean marina simply because it's the right thing to do. And there's nothing wrong with becoming a certified clean marina solely for that reason, because it is simply the right thing to do for the long-term sustainability of our waterways. So that is something we always mention, because there are some marinas that for no other reason, they participate in this program only for that purpose. All right, so this is also tying into why we have a Clean Marinas program, both in Ohio and several programs across the country, because many marinas, and not all, but a good number of marinas can be somewhat like auto body shops near the water, where they're doing engine maintenance, oil changes, fueling, sanding, painting, boat washing. You can have a number of pollution sources associated with those activities. And so the Clean Marinas program exists to help you manage any pollution from those activities and handle it responsibly. I'll also mention, because we do have marinas that don't have, engine maintenance, oil changes, fueling, simply having invasive species prevention information, marine debris and proper waste management, and maybe even some stormwater best practices are still absolutely great opportunities to help reduce pollution. And so we like to think, especially in our program, we have best practices and options for a whole range of marinas, all the way from a mom and pop that may only have 10 docks and a boat ramp, up to a marina that has 800 docks and a full service facility. So we work with all types of different sources of pollution and all types of operations that a marina may have. The potential positive environmental impacts that we could see from implementing clean marina practices include decreasing suspended solids that cause turbidity. So that can be if you see kind of a muddiness to the water. That's oftentimes a combination of a number of factors upstream, but marinas can absolutely contribute to solids and sediment that could end up kind of muddying up our waterways. So we can certainly do things on site to manage that. Decreasing pollutants that can accumulate in water, sediments, and the aquatic food chain. This can absolutely have effects on, if we're talking about fish that eventually humans would consume. That's definitely something to advertise and say, hey, I'm doing my part to make sure that we are keeping our aquatic fish safe. Decreasing biodegradation, which can lower dissolved oxygen. If any of you are from the Lake Erie Lake Erie region, you are probably familiar with what's called the dead zone, which is an area of little to no oxygen that occurs every year. And so we can help lessen that dead zone by playing our part to decrease increase dissolved oxygen levels in Lake Erie. Decrease phosphorus. Again, if you're from Lake Erie and absolutely inland Ohio as well, you'll know that we have issues with harmful algal blooms. And so, again, I feel marinas can do their part, and they should brag about doing their part to decrease phosphorus accumulation in our water. And that absolutely is playing a part to help reduce the size and extent of harmful algal blooms. And then finally, decreasing oil and grease, which can enter the water and harm aquatic life, and which most of us know is very visible to boaters and the general public. So absolutely, by minimizing any risk of causing that types of pollution, it's not only beneficial for the environment, but it's also beneficial for your bottom line and your marketing and the way you're perceived in the local community. So for Ohio's background, we have been around since about 2003, 2004 was when we first started talking about the program and officially launching. Our first marinas were certified in 2005. And historically, we were a Lake Erie only program that was sponsored by Ohio Sea Grant and the ODNR Office of Coastal Management through funding from NOAA, which is a federal agency. And in 2015, we were able to expand our program statewide with the help of the ODNR Division of Parks and Watercraft. So now we offer full certification and technical assistance to all marinas across Ohio, both what we consider inland and coastal marinas. And we have since, in 2018, we built out a tiered program, which basically means we have 3 levels of certification available to the range of marinas in Ohio. We have a base level, which the idea being is, it's kind of the getting your foot in the door, I call it. We have the majority of our marinas certified at our base level. Then we have a gold level, which is kind of the middle ground. And it's a great opportunity for our existing marinas to kind of demonstrate continuing improvement and add some additional practices to their existing practices that they are doing on site. And then finally, we have a platinum level certification, and that is incorporating all of our Clean Marina best practices that we have on our checklist. And so you'll see the numbers here. We have a total of 82 certified across Ohio. We have 13 that are gold certified and 3 that are platinum in the state. Alrighty, something that I want to mention for folks to be aware, and especially if anybody watches this and are members of some of the boaters that I believe are called loopers, where they go across the Great Lakes or even go up and down the Mississippi or elsewhere in the country. We are not alone. There are actually Clean Marina programs in almost every state in the Great Lakes, or there are Clean Marina initiatives in every state in the Great Lakes. So you'll see that there's Michigan Clean Marina, Wisconsin, Indiana, Illinois, and Minnesota all have full certification programs, and New York and Pennsylvania have education programs. So they have that set up there. What we like to say in the Great Lakes, we all work together, so we try not to compete with one another. We encourage you to check out this website that's listed here, and I believe that Paul has put in the chat box there. It has a wealth of resources. We have tip sheets, online recorded webinars on a whole range of topics. We have a media kit that helps promote. If you're a certified Clean Marina, you can help promote to the local media to get that good word out about becoming certified. And we also have a map of all the certified Clean Marinas in the Great Lakes. So the idea is, what we say is no matter where you are, choose a Clean Marina. So that way we're not saying, oh, we only support Ohio Clean Marinas, we only support Michigan, even though we'll claim we have that competition with that state up north because we have to with Ohio State. But we, no matter where we are, we encourage our boaters to support a Clean Marina. And I will mention that we have there's a nationwide Clean Marina number of programs. So most coastal states across the country have a Clean Marina program. So if you happen to be visiting family in Florida or Texas or North Carolina, same thing, we encourage you to seek out and support your local Clean Marinas there. There we go. Skip too much ahead. Hang on, I gotta go back here. There we go. So next we're going to talk about our benefits of becoming a clean marina. This is going to cover everything, as I mentioned, from the financial and tangible items down to the kind of warm and fuzzy, just overall doing it because it's the right thing. So the first thing is public recognition and enhanced image and marketing. Excuse me. And there are a number of things we do when you become a certified clean marina. We have an annual Ohio Marina Conference that we hold every year. Often it is in person. This year we did go virtual, but we probably will set up at least a hybrid, if not a full in-person event for 2022. And so at that event, we'll award a certificate that's mentioned here, as well as have often the director of Sea Grant and the director of ODNR there to present you with a public announcement recognition of becoming certified. As I mentioned, we have our Great Lakes wide map where all of our certified clean marinas are listed. We provide promotional signage, everything from a real estate sign to we have decals available that you can put in your window. We have aluminum signs that you can hang on a gate if you have an entrance gate, and a number of other things that we try and, again, kind of encourage you to promote yourself and make your boaters aware that you are a certified clean marina. We have a number of draft press releases available that you can fill out and send to your local media for advertising certification. And then we have a social media page. And last year, Paul did a great job of starting a kind of a social media different day of the week. Every day is different. And so on Mondays is Marina Monday. So every Monday we feature one of our certified clean marinas. And so hopefully that's, again, just another way you can promote yourself and we can help promote you. Compliance assistance and education training. We provide a number of webinars throughout the year. Oftentimes these are recorded. As we know, there's sometimes works out where you can step aside and watch a webinar, and other times might not be so. So we try and set it up so you can access it after the fact. As I am actually stationed at the ODNR Office of Coastal Management and have a strong partnership there, we have access to GIS resources to help with producing customized maps. That the main purpose of this is we use it to help our marinas with their stormwater pollution prevention plan, which is a regulatory requirement. That's something we have available for free for our marinas. We have workshops that we hold, I would say every year to 2 years now on different topics. A couple years ago, we had a stormwater and wastewater workshop across the state where we were addressing, excuse me, new regulations coming out to the marina industry on stormwater and wastewater. And then finally, technical assistance. We will come out on site to any of our certified and pledged clean marinas to help with any clean marina related best practices or questions that you have. And if it isn't necessary on site, we provide also technical assistance. I've done virtual site visits. I've done virtual meetings where we've gone through and help you set up your stormwater pollution prevention plan and other, again, possible either regulatory requirements or even just anything that we can help with that's going above and beyond the regulations. All righty. Then we have financial incentives. On this slide are a number of items that are available to any marina that becomes certified in Ohio. What we often do is allow marinas to kind of pick and choose from here. We certainly don't want to force anything on a marina. For example, there's some marinas that don't like the signage all over their facility, which is completely fine. So we offer it if marinas would like it. they absolutely can take it and post it at their facility. If not, there's other options, there's other alternatives to boater education that we have available that helps meet our site requirements for Clean Marina certification. A couple things here that may need explanation. In the top right-hand corner is a fishing line recycling bin. We partner with Boat US and some local organizations to help distribute these at Clean Marinas. And it's a great alternative to trash can disposal for fishing line recycling. And it's also just a good reminder, hopefully, for people, if you have a fishing pier or a location for fishing, to make sure people are disposing of their fishing line properly. We have boom that's available. We provide up to 40 feet of boom to a certified Clean Marina if they're interested. And then in the bottom left here is our flotsam scoop, which I would say is probably one of our most popular incentives. It was actually an item that was built by a local Sea Scout troop in Northeast Ohio. And it's a fantastic 6 to 9 foot expandable kind of tool that instead of using a pool skimmer or something that might break or a net to dispose of, collect trash at your facility, it's a heavy duty aluminum scoop that can help remove debris and dispose of it properly. And then finally in the top left-hand corner here is the Stop Aquatic Hitchhikers sign. That's a collaboration with ODNR. And if you have a boat ramp, we can put invasive species signage at your boat ramp. Sorry, guys. And then the Clean Marina Burgee that you'll see beneath the state of Ohio flag here. All of our certified Clean Marinas will receive a burgee that you can either put outside. I will say it does get worn down pretty quickly. So a lot of our marinas will frame it or keep it inside near their office to display. Reduced liability. This is one of the, I would say, most cited benefits that our marinas talk about. Basically, there's a number of ways that we accomplish this. It is our job to maintain a good working relationship with the regulatory agencies in Ohio. And so as such, you can kind of work through us to ask questions on regulatory items that maybe you don't feel comfortable calling up a regulator. And so we can kind of pose that and say, you know, let's say Ohio EPA, hey, I have a marina that's doing this, this, and this. What would you recommend? And so that way we can kind of lessen that maybe fear that you might have from talking directly to a regulator, but also give you peace of mind that you are meeting the regulatory requirements that are in place for a marina. We also have had conversations with insurance companies, and while to our knowledge there is not a Clean Marina, quote, Clean Marina discount, what we do is we work with you and we can provide a memo or letter outlining the Clean Marina checklist items that you are meeting by becoming certified. You then can send that to your insurance provider, and some insurance providers will provide you reduced rates because by working with us and us verifying that you're implementing these practices, the insurance company sees that as helping with risk reduction and management, and so they can give you a reduced insurance rate. I already mentioned this, but the assurance that you are up to date on all current regulations. So again, it's that peace of mind that it is our job to make sure that you are educated on any environmental regulations that apply to you, and oftentimes going above and beyond. So you're not only, you know, meeting what's required, but you're usually one step ahead of the curve. And then finally, your marina being a safer, healthier place to work. So while a lot of these concepts you may think about as being environmentally effective, there's certainly ties to risk reduction and safety on site. And so by working with us to become certified, it oftentimes reduces any sort of health and safety risks for your staff and your boaters. Okay. This is where we mention our Clean Boater program. This is a benefit as much as it is a whole side program that's available to you as a Clean Marina. basically in 2006, we had some boaters coming to us and saying, well, what if I don't belong to a clean marina? What can I do? Or how can I support my clean marina? So these are some resources here that are linked, but basically we have a pledge program where any boater, whether they are at a clean marina or not, can go online, or if they see us at a boat show and we have some paper forms, they can fill out our Clean Boater Pledge. And this is a much less rigorous, very simple one-page pledge that simply says, they check off, let's say, I pledge to keep trash out of our waterways. I pledge to do my part to help prevent the spread of invasive species. I pledge to fuel properly when I'm fueling up at the dock. And so it's a way for boaters to become engaged in protecting our waterways. But what we also find is boaters take this pledge, they have the option to fill in their email if interested, and then they get added to what we call our Clean Boater e-newsletter. So then we have a regular way with communicating with our boaters. In that newsletter, we will provide them probably quarterly to biannual education on new best practices. So it's a great way to get information out to boaters. We'll also promote our clean marinas. So that way, hopefully, more boaters become aware of what the Clean Marinas program is. More boaters then choose to support a clean marina, and more boaters are actively engaged in protecting the environment. So hopefully your patrons, if you promote this program to them, they can actually help you with keeping your clean marina certification. So we've heard, even anecdotally, that let's say a marina becomes a certified clean marina, they then have this clean boater program that we come and maybe do a training, or we come out to an event and do a table and talk to their boaters about the clean boater program. They sign up. We have some boaters that then they volunteer to help the marina with the recycling program. And so that takes that off the marina's plate, and the boater feels like they're doing something to help, and it's a win-win. And it helps the marina become or stay certified. So there's definitely opportunities to use this to your benefit, use it as a way to engage your boaters, and use it as a marketing tool for yourself as a clean marina. So there's several resources there. I'll mention quickly the YouTube series. We developed a series of very short, less than 2-minute long videos on a number of topics, with the whole idea being that a marina could take it and share it on your Facebook page, or clip it and put it into a newsletter. And they're just short clips on clean boating practices, like on invasive species, like waste management, like proper fueling, things like that. Okay, so let's skip a second. So the last one is improved water quality and wildlife habitat. I moved too quickly. And this is again, the warm and fuzzy. This is, at the end of the day, by becoming a clean marina, you are demonstrating to others, to your boaters, to your community, that you're doing your part to protect your livelihood and our waterways. And so again, by being that last chance to treat water, you're not only affecting your site, but you're also cumulatively adding to the treatment of stormwater runoff and pollution to our waterways. So now we're going to get into our certification process. We essentially have I call it a 5-step process, but we've added a step 6 since we've become a tiered program. So the first step you're already accomplishing just by being here, that is attending a training. And right now the virtual training counts. Traditionally, we would have an in-person training workshop, but in light of COVID, right now this counts as a training. That is probably one of the biggest steps for you. If you are interested in becoming a certified clean marina, we then have a pledge that you can fill out. I will send an email to everybody that attends after this workshop with the slides as well as the pledge form. If you fill out the pledge, that is not a binding contract in any way. It is simply essentially a permission, giving us permission to then reach out to you and continue to walk down the path towards clean marina certification. So if you fill out that pledge, then it is in our the ball's in our court. And so we reach out to you and we will come out to your facility for a preliminary site visit. That is where we'll go into more detail of the checklist items that you'll hear about here shortly, but we'll really customize the checklist for your facility. And after that preliminary site visit, you'll receive a letter that has recommendations. So what we'll do there is pare down the checklist to say, okay, we went through the entire checklist. At the end of the day, here's the core items that you would need to become certified. And we will outline, here's what you need for base certification. Here's what you need for gold certification if you did want to become a gold tier, and here's what you need for platinum. So that way you can choose based on where you're at as a marina and your preference, which level or which tier you'd like to achieve. After you implement those recommendations, and again, we provide technical assistance. So let's say, for example, you're a marina that needs a stormwater permit as part of to be a certified clean marina and likely regulatory requirements as well. We would then work with you to help you get that permit in place. So we help you along that process. We're not just going to say, okay, here's a list of everything you need. Good luck. We're going to help hold your hand through that process and give you advice and guidance wherever you need it. After you incorporate those recommendations, then ideally, what happens is we come out for what's called a final site visit. And oftentimes that very same day, we award certification. That's where you would receive any of our items, our our incentive items that we would give with you. And then we get a certificate together that is awarded at our annual conference that often happens in February of each year. There is a note there that recertification is every 5 years. So once you become certified, we do what's called a desk audit, even though, again, we're not a regulatory, so it's not an audit, but we do send out a checklist every year that we ask you to fill out to make sure that you're still meeting all the requirements. And then every 5 years, we come out in person to do an in-person site visit, just to, again, check on that. And know that if at any point you want us to come out for a visit or you have questions, that doesn't mean we can't come out to you in that 5-year period. We are always there. Once it becomes certified, we are there to help you as a benefit to becoming certified. Just know that at the very least, we'll be out there every 5 years. And then finally is the step 6. That's where you reach a higher tier. And that's where I recommend, we have some marinas that will say, I want to go for platinum, right out the gate. And that's completely fine. But we also have marinas that are saying, I'm not sure. And so what I recommend is get started at the base level certification. Let's get your foot in the door, get a feel for how the program works. And then you can always work later towards reaching a higher tier. It's like, okay, we've got these practices under our belt. Now we're going to work towards, these additional practices over time, and that may be more manageable. Oh, 1 second. There we go. Okay, now we are going to go into our tiered checklist. And this is, again, I'm not going to go into huge detail here, but it's just to give you a sense of how our tiered checklist is set up and a feel for what you can expect when we come out in person. So our tiered checklist is set up with a number of different themes. We restructured it a couple years ago so that it fit more under kind of concept and topic and not so much broken up into really specific practices. So the first one is marina management. Then there's water management and resiliency, followed by ecological considerations, boater education, and employee training and community outreach. And there is an asterisk there. That's one where I won't go over the regulatory laws, but in our checklist that maybe Paul may be sharing, or otherwise I will definitely share with everybody on the call in my follow-up email. The tiered checklist is simply those items that are kind of above and beyond to become a certified clean marina. What we do on our site visit is we will go through all of the possible regulatory requirements that are related to environmental practices. And so we will make sure that at the very least you're following those laws and regulations. We have to make sure of that. I will say, by and large, all the marinas are already doing what you're supposed to be doing. So all it is just checking it off, making sure that we're good to go there. And then we go into talking about the clean marina requirements. Okay. Oops, skipped ahead again. Marina management. This is kind of a catch-all of a range of different things that marina kind of managers themselves may have under their responsibility and kind of on-site control. So this has everything from having proper cigarette disposal containers, working with your staff to having an environmental representative designated. That's a good idea because even though usually we'll have a primary point of contact with each clean marina, it's always good to have a backup in case management changes or you're out on vacation or something. And so that way we have a backup point of contact just in case that scenario does come up. This also covers any signage that would be posted on environmental policies, a little bit of waste management on recyclables, and in general, just trash management on site. It also goes into conducting the site review, which is required once a year, where you just go through the checklist on your own and submitting that checklist. We go into a little bit of energy efficiency. These are some things that we added this to our tiered checklist a couple years ago because we feel that it supports both the environment, but it's also a good money saver for the marina as well. And then we talk about shrink wrap recycling and kind of another maintaining any equipment such as even lawn maintenance equipment and things like that, so you don't have any leakage or possible sources of oil or gas leakage. Shrink wrap, I will mention, we do have a shrink wrap recycling program. It's very much in flux right now because of the plastics market, but depending on where you are in the state, there may be options available to you. So we are more than happy to help. And we work with you on this, or what we do recommend is if you have the option to encourage your boaters to store their vessels indoors, or even purchasing reusable covers, anything to kind of minimize that disposal of that boat plastic every year, which can be a lot that can add up. All right. Water management and resiliency. This gets a little bit into stormwater and kind of a water efficiency that we have. On the pictures are some examples that we have of best practices. Everything from on the top right, even just a rain barrel. And there's many community programs where you can often get a rain barrel for free or at a very minimal cost. It's also a great idea if you have a local Boy Scout, Girl Scout troop, you can have them decorated as an art project. You can kind of do it as a community project together, and simply disconnecting a gutter off of a shed or a restroom, or if you have like this, I think is a kayak shack, you can divert that to a rain barrel and then use that to water plants or what have you that you may have on site. Labeling storm drains. This is another one that through a lot of our soil and water conservation districts, they have stencils available, or you may be able to order a little decal that can go on the storm drain itself. And the key here is hopefully to force people to stop and look before they were to ever dump anything down the drain other than just normal water that's supposed to be running off the pavement there. So that's a key thing that is often simple to incorporate at your marina. Then further on the left-hand side, this is an example of kind of a combination vegetated buffer, or what we call kind of impervious surface near the water's edge. What we like to see is not asphalt or some sort of impervious surface all the way to the edge of the water. It's nice to have something even as simple as gravel, or at the best grass or trees or plants that can help soak and slow down the water before it reaches the water body that it's going to. We've got some wetlands in the bottom left hand, again, any sort of vegetation. And obviously marinas may have limited space available to incorporate some of these practices, but we encourage you to be creative. Let's say the majority, of your marina is bulkhead and you've got docks and obviously that valuable space that you need. Well, let's say off to the side you have an area that's not needed, and maybe you could work again with the local community group to put in pollinator gardens or native plants or do some sort of shoreline restoration. There's a lot of creative opportunities, and there's a lot of I would say community support and possible funding available for this type of work. And so we'd be happy to connect with you and see if we can brainstorm ideas on something like that. And then finally is the stormwater pollution prevention plan down at the bottom there. That's simply where we work with you, again, assessing your entire site to see where there's opportunities where, again, if you simply put in a vegetated buffer or maybe we slope something a different way, where instead of just having maybe runoff come right from, let's say, an indoor storage garage or maintenance area and go right on the asphalt into the water, maybe there's some opportunities for intercepting that water so we can manage possible pollution in that water. The only other thing I'll mention on this slide, there's some natural hazard emergency documents that we have mentioned. This is to help marinas with your coastal resiliency, or basically to help you be better prepared for what we are seeing as more frequent severe storms and flooding. So the way that we are going, again, and being proactive and trying to be ahead of the curve is the same way that you likely have maybe a tornado plan or a fire emergency plan on site. Having an emergency plan for flooding, or if you're on Lake Erie for a coastal storm, or even maybe ice, if something we're seeing some different types of weather in the wintertime as well. That is what we are encouraging, because we're just, again, seeing kind of these more extreme natural disasters. And so the better that you plan ahead and have kind of a local chain of command and local response planning in place, the better chances of you being more resilient and able to bounce back, or hopefully having more limited damage if and when that disaster would strike. So, and we have some resources absolutely to help with that. Ecological considerations. This overlaps a little bit from our stormwater, but it goes a little bit more into what we consider habitat and kind of wildlife management. This is everything from just general no wake signs, which not only help for boater safety, but they also do help actually for erosion control and helping with our shorelines. Using aquatic safe herbicides and pesticides. And there's a number of companies that we can point you to that help you. And oftentimes, if you even have an existing management company, if you just simply say, you know, I'd like to use some of the AquaSafe products, they know what you're talking about. Creating habitats, using native plants, and employing living shoreline techniques, which again, there's a whole kind of community of practice that's growing on a lot of these innovative techniques and actions that you can put in place. So there's a lot of science and information that's coming around these types of practices. And so we can definitely put you in touch with these resources. Some of the examples in the pictures to the left here, there's something as simple as like in the top right, pollinator gardens. If you have some space where you have existing plants, simply replanting with some pollinator friendly species is great, and you can actually receive recognition. You can get signage, and even if there's a huge community around monarch butterflies, for example, it's a great opportunity again for community engagement, or to become involved and say, hey, you know, we're doing our part to help protect the monarchs. Living shoreline work, everything from smaller, very kind of piecemeal projects to a larger project. We have some marinas that have an example of where they've, instead of using traditional armored shoreline, have opted for a more hybrid or a more natural shoreline look, but that still has the erosion control and kind of stability needed at a marina. And I will say this isn't something that can apply to every marina, but it's certainly something that we can look at and see if it would be suitable for your marina. And then on the far left side, there's the bird habitat. Those are, I think, purple mountain houses. So even adding a like a bird feeder or something like that, we'd recognize as doing your part to increase habitat or support wildlife on site. All right, the last two sections are on what we find is great opportunities to engage your boaters and to engage your community. So this first one is boater education. This involves practices everything from offering vessel safety checks, which we've worked a lot with the Coast Guard Auxiliary and Power Squadron on incorporating clean boating practices, so that even though this is considered a vessel safety check, we see that as there's a lot of things that they provide education on that absolutely overlap into the environmental or clean boating side of things. So we do recognize that. Providing educational materials to your boaters, providing information about the Clean Boater Pledge or the Clean Marinas program. And again, there's a lot of things we have available, everything from the YouTube series to our Clean Boater tip sheets to if you have us out to a outreach event, we can come out and have a table event again sometime in the future when we're allowed to come out again and provide this education to your boaters. So that's not something you necessarily have to take on. You just have to use our resources or invite us out to your facility. Hosting an Ohio boater education course, or these are some good examples, publicly recognizing boaters when they demonstrate environmental stewardship. This one I like because it allows you to call out, again, those boaters that maybe are doing their part to support you being a clean marina. Maybe somebody that volunteers to, plant the native plants or set up a pollinator garden, or somebody to start a recycling program at your marina. So it shows them you appreciate it, but then hopefully by calling them out, it encourages other boaters to do the same, right? To continue to support you as a clean marina. And the last one is employee training and community outreach. This is, again, another one where you can really engage with the community, and this goes into your employees. Now, I will say we work with all types of marinas. We work with those that are considered, full-fledged marinas, full-service marinas, mom pop marinas. We work with yacht clubs. We work with what we would consider boat retailers. And so what you consider employee may not be, it may be just a member of the yacht club, for example, or something like that. But so we consider an employee as to anybody that's essentially a representative for the marina, that's kind of an active member of the board or an active member of the marina staff. So there's a number of practices on training. This is either offering training to your employees or supporting your employees in attending environmental trainings. That can be our training that we would have, such as this Clean Marina workshop here. We also recognize a number of other organizations that have training. The Boat US Foundation, for example, has a number of online trainings available, from a clean boating course all the way to a fuel spill prevention training that they have available. If you're able to document and show that you attended that training, or your employees, we recognize that and count it towards our certification requirements. We also have, similar to the boaters, we have a way to publicly recognize your employees when they demonstrate environmental stewardship. This could be an employee of the month, or again, member of the month, where you recognize them on social media or in a newsletter. And then the last couple of things is you can partner with a local vocational school, community college, youth group, to either offer internships at your marina. Maybe you work with them, like in the bottom right here, to do a local cleanup, either at your marina or even in a neighboring community, but you are actively engaged in that. Maybe you do a boating kind of safety community course where you have us come out and also teach about clean boating in addition to safe boating. So there's a number of ideas here that we would count towards certification. Now, before I get into the next piece of our presentation here, what I want to say is you'll see for each of these chapters at the very top, it says choose from the following criteria. And there's base certification, gold, and platinum. So each chapter has its own set of requirements that are needed for base certification. In this case, for this specific chapter, it's 4. You have to meet 4 of these to become base certified. Then you have to meet 6 to become gold. And then you have to meet all of them to become platinum. So the way it works to become certified is under each chapter, you have to meet, let's say you were going for gold. You would have to meet all of the gold criteria in this employee training and outreach. You would have to meet all of their criteria in the boater education for gold, which would be 7, and so forth. Ecological consideration, you have to meet 6 here. So if you, and you'll see at the bottom in our checklist, there's a spot where we put status achieved. So if you reach gold in all of the chapters, then you would be awarded gold certification status. If you reach base certification in 2 and then gold in the rest, you'd still only reach base, but you're on your way to gold. So that's the way we kind of set it up is if you meet the base, for all of them, you'll be base certified. If you meet the gold for all of them, you'll be gold certified. And if you do all of them, then you'll be platinum certified. One other thing I want to call out is at the end of every single checklist chapter is a item that says provide examples of innovative best management practices not listed above that are unique to your marina. We set this up because when we were putting together the checklist, we realized, there may be practices that a marina is doing that are certainly would be considered a clean marina best practice, but that we haven't thought to include, or that maybe we aren't aware of yet. So this is an opportunity where if you're able to demonstrate to us something under this chapter that is still innovative in terms of environmental best practices, but it's not listed above, that can then be traded out for any one of these practices in this chapter. So that's something that, let's say, a common example I use is in one of our first chapters here, marina management. It says where's the one where you have collection bins for solid recyclables and you encourage your patrons and staff to recycle. We have some facilities that do not have a recycling program available to them. So let's say it's literally impossible for them to have a recycling. So what I then suggest is you provide an example of something else you do on site, maybe to help with waste management, or maybe you encourage your boaters instead to bring their own, coffee mugs or things like that, or just something that would then offset that recyclable best practice. So that's the way we have the checklist set up. All righty. Getting to the end here. We're doing good. I'm going to pause real quick to see if there's anything in the chat. Okay, awesome. Paul, if you can, we'll definitely address that. Perfect. Okay, awesome. It looks like Paul and Heather are addressing the chat. Thank you guys, and I'll follow up on those questions at the end. The last piece is some of our existing projects that we have going on. I will say some of these projects we have every year. Some of them, 3 years from now, we may be doing a whole different set of projects, but this is a snapshot of what we're doing right now. We are currently involved in something called the Great Lakes Aquatic Invasive Species Landing Blitz. This is an annual event, Great Lakes wide, where we try and, in a non-COVID time, get out at boat ramps and educate boaters on the importance of preventing the spread of invasive species. So there's a link here with more information, and this year, Ohio is kind of planning a hybrid setup. We will likely do a webinar at the very least, where we will be during the time period of June to July, June 26th to July 4th. We'll have some webinar series on invasive species and be doing some social media marketing around invasive species. But then we'll also be supporting any groups that would want to, if there's a volunteer group or if there's an opportunity, let's say there's a fishing tournament falling in that time frame, we would love to give you some incentive items or help set up a tabling event where you could educate boaters as they're coming and going on the boat ramp, and at the very least say, please clean, drain, and dry your boat to prevent the spread of invasive species. There's a lot more information on that on the website, but that's just something to be aware of. Green infrastructure projects, we have another slide about. I will talk more about that in a second, as well as the virtual reality interactive ideal clean marina. Boat wash wastewater. This is something that's both, I would say, an initiative, but it's an important item to be aware of. As of 2018, technically, marinas are supposed to be managing the power wash wastewater. If you are using a power washer and washing the bottom of a vessel to remove paint, and prepare it in the fall for if you do sanding and painting over the winter time. There's some significant regulatory changes that Ohio EPA has put in place. So definitely reach out to us on if you do that at your facility, how to get into compliance. We are working with Ohio EPA on trying to find solutions for this, for managing this wastewater, keeping it out of the water body. And our plan is this year we're going to try and put together some case studies so that as marinas put in some of these wastewater treatment options, we can have case studies to show other marinas so they understand what options are available to them. Clean boater training. That is mentioned that just a kind of a reminder, we are available if either virtually or as we are able to come out and do a talk to your boaters about anything. If we want to talk about clean marinas, we can talk about invasive species, we can talk about marine debris, we can talk about anything kind of related to clean boating and have it as a training or just an educational session for your boaters. That's available to you. And then we are in the process of hopefully developing an online clean boater course, which we hope to have very similar to a safe boating course. So if you think about it, when boaters go to get their boating license, they have to take an online course, so they have to attend a course in person. We would have a clean boater training that would then kind of supplement that and be available to boaters across Ohio or anywhere else as something to just support boaters that want to go above and beyond and want to be educated on the right thing. Marine debris shrink wrap and monofilament recycling. I think I do have a slide on that. Annual conference, workshops, and online training. This is a link here. Again, every February we have a statewide Ohio Marina conference that is meant to be a day-long professional development training for Ohio marinas. I see it as, there's boat shows and things like that throughout the year, but the focus of that is on drawing your clientele, right? Serving your clientele, trying to sell boats, trying to get new boaters at your facility. And so you may not have a lot of time to either network with your colleagues or to attend trainings that may be going on at the boat show or things like that. So the purpose of our conference is to be a kind of a one-day event where we have a number of expert speakers across the state or even outside of the state to talk about different projects, different initiatives, some of them related to clean marinas, but sometimes we have speakers on tourism or business expansion. And so we try and get together a good agenda. So it's beneficial to you. It's only a day, but it's hopefully an opportunity where you can sit, take it all in, learn a lot, maybe network with your colleagues, and then for our clean marinas to receive recognition. So, and then the last thing I'll mention is our Clean Marinas guidebook and calendar. This is something that we has been more of probably a biannual thing because we haven't been able to do it as often, but we hope to do it this year. This is, again, another recognition. We publish a annual calendar or biannual calendar where we'll recognize all of our certified clean marinas from that past year or 2 years. And we also use it as a tool to, if we give it to all of our certified clean marinas, we'll have reminders on the calendars to say like, hey, have you updated your stormwater plan, or when was the last time you attended a training, or just as a way to have friendly reminders throughout the year on clean marina topics. Alrighty, let's see here. I'm just gonna check the chat for a second. Oh, thanks, Paul. Okay. Alrighty, real quick. this is just something we want everyone to be aware of because we're really excited about it. Green infrastructure is fairly new, sorry guys, in the marina industry. And so what we are doing is we're working with Michigan and Wisconsin on getting on the ground green infrastructure projects, demonstration projects at 3 marinas in those 3 states. We are using, it's a Great Lakes Restoration Initiative and Great Lakes Protection Fund money. So that's being funded. And the idea is to try and get this on the ground, get some data around what the cost of this types of projects are, do some monitoring to understand the impact of this types of green infrastructure um, on the water quality, to see how it, if it's to and this is just my honest opinion, I want to know that if I encourage a marina to adopt green infrastructure, that it's actually going to have an impact. So we want to understand what the impact is on water quality. And then finally, we're going to do a series of outreach. We'll probably do some in-person and maybe virtual option workshops in likely the spring of 2022, where we will have on-site visits to these practices and a slew of educational resources and information about this types of work. The hope is to encourage marinas to consider more and more green infrastructure and to help you with that, to get your foot in the door, to maybe look at some funding options and help maybe decrease any fear or insecurity that you may have with working with green infrastructure on site. The Ideal Clean Marina tool is something that we put together a couple years ago. And this is the idea behind this was, what if we were to put all of our clean marina practices in a marina? You know, what would the ideal clean marina look like? And this is not to say that we expect all of our marinas to have all these practices, but it's supposed to help our marinas visualize, okay, you know, what could an invasive species boat wash station look at on my marina? Where could I put a rain garden? Where could I put pollinator garden, or where could I put a gravel parking lot? And so it's hopefully to help you brainstorm ideas as to how these types of practices could fit within your existing marina. And yeah, just give you some ideas. So this is not a real marina. This is a 2D rendering that we put together. And then this link here, and then I think Paul will probably put it in the chat box, is we've since done, I guess you would say, a phase 2, where we built out this 2D rendering into a really, really cool a virtual reality tool where you can click the link or open this website. I encourage you to do it later because it does take a lot of bandwidth, or bookmark it. But what we did is we actually took drone footage and 360 videos and worked with a firm to truly create a virtual reality experience where it would be as if you were walking around the marina visualizing these types of practices. And so far on the link, if you go to it, you'll see we have a number of our green infrastructure practices included on that tool. And then our next step, and I will say, if you click on certain spots when you're in the website, so it's a 3-dimensional kind of setup, virtual, entirely virtual. But then if you click on certain spots, it'll bring up these drone footage and the 360 videos of real marinas in Ohio. So you can see where this type of work is being done in Ohio. And then our plan is to continue to build it out to add additional topics. So additional invasive species practices, marine debris practices, waste management, all sorts of things. And so this is a call to anybody that sees this, that if you have any of these types of practices on site that you think, hey, you know, we have a really good example of a floating fuel dock, or we have a really good pollinator garden, contact us. We'd love to come out, get some footage, and add you to our Ideal Clean Marina virtual reality tool, because the goal is, again, to have this kind of 3D setup, but within the 3D model, you can actually click on and bring up pictures and examples of real marinas in Ohio that have this work being done. So the hope is, again, it helps marinas visualize this, but again, it's not pie in the sky because there's actual marinas that have demonstrated this and have applied these types of practices that we can show. And again, the hope is we can help move more marinas to adopting this type of work, and maybe connect them with people and say, hey, I'd really love to come and check out your fish cleaning station and see how you guys set it up, um, and help that happen. So, all righty. The marine debris and recycling efforts that we have, Paul is actually partnering with Ohio Sea Grant on a great Skip the Straw kind of tourism project at the Put-in-Bay area. They're doing a lot of education with local restaurants on reducing straw use at their restaurants. There's absolutely applicability to marinas and yacht clubs for this type of work. If you have a bar, if you have a restaurant at your facility, there's a lot to be learned, and we'll probably have some workshops and resources available on the key there, just quick, is employee training. If you actually educate your employees on talking to the customers about the importance of straw use, and obviously having messaging and adapting to people who may need a straw, or people that have questions about straw use. That's something that they're working on at Put-in-Bay there, as well as doing cleanups. Fishing line recycling is also there, and then shrink wrap recycling, which is what I mentioned before. And again, we have a video that's available. That's a great how-to video on how to prepare shrink wrap for recycling. And then also, please contact us. We have an online form that if anybody's interested in recycling, you can contact us to learn more. Okay. The last thing that I'm going to promote, this is something that we've been promoting for over a year now. We partner with Ohio State University on a business retention and expansion survey. The whole idea is to gauge the marina industry in Ohio and to understand how you are doing as a business and what resources you would need to continue to expand as a business, or heaven forbid, if you're planning on closing or reducing size, what you would need to help you stay afloat. And this is quarterly. It's actually a great program that Ohio State does across Ohio, and we've simply adapted it for the marina industry. So, but we need input. We need marinas to fill it out in order to be able to produce an effective report that then goes to the local tourism bureaus and the economic development corporations of Ohio. So we really do need marinas to fill this out. You can see we started it last year, but we're looking for ideally 70 marinas to participate. I think we're about 50 right now. So if you know anybody, if you could please send it out to them to fill it out, that would be fantastic. All righty, and this is our contact information. Again, myself, the Lake Erie Marina kind of contact there, Heather, the Inland Marina contact, and then Paul, our program administrator. Heather did a good job. She put in here, are you getting our emails and newsletters? We have a Clean Marina newsletter, so please email us, ohiocleanmarinas@osu.edu. If you'd like to be added to the Clean Marina newsletter, follow us on Facebook, on our Facebook page for great information, and then there's some of our websites here. So with that, I'll leave that up there. I'm going to pause recording here, or stop, and then open it up for questions. But thank you, everybody, for joining us. And again, please feel free to reach out anytime if you have questions. All right.